I'm glad you gave me a chance. I always think it takes people with similar tastes to sustain a pleasant conversation. Nice to meet you. I'm Kaveh, an architect. If you have a project you'd like me to work on, then I'll need a detailed description of what you have in mind. The ability to appreciate beauty is an important virtue. It's good to get out and stretch your legs once in a while. People aren't made to stay cooped up inside all the time. My latest design's getting there, but there's still room for improvement. Better make my finishing touches before the deadline creeps up. Huh? When did it start to rain? Oh no, I forgot to bring an umbrella. Did you see that? That bolt of lightning was such an interesting shape. Feels like the wind's creeping in from the back of my shirt. And also the front. I get dizzy and sleepy when I'm under the sun for too long. It's a similar feeling to pulling an all-nighter on a work project. This isn't my first trek into the desert, but I can never get used to the heat. Is there no shade anywhere? Did you sleep well? I hope you have a great day today, and that you don't run into someone who ruins your day first thing in the morning. This midday sun is fierce. I should go check on the building materials I left out to dry. There's supposed to be a great view of the stars tonight. Don't you think that's a good omen? Relax your mind and let go of all your troubles. Have a good night. It's fair to say I'm a pretty proud person when it comes to my area of expertise. Most scholars are when talking about their chosen fields. After all, we build our whole lives around it. I mean, if I ever stopped taking pride in my own work, then I would also forfeit the right to have any expectations of myself or anyone else. Aesthetic isn't the #1 priority in my work, and nor should it be. Quality and safety are paramount. But I never neglect the artistic side either. That's what sets my work apart from others. You must have seen the Palace of Alcazarzare before. That's my magnum opus. I sacrificed so much for that. Everyone else thought I'd lost my mind. Well, if you're not me, and you don't share my trade, I wouldn't expect you to understand. It'd be nice to meet someone who did understand, though. I've always thought that you can never truly know a person until you understand their deepest wishes. But once you start exploring hopes and dreams, whether they're your own or someone else's, it can be a dangerous journey. You might unlock something that can't be put away again. Not everyone can face the potential consequences of that. I almost don't want to say this out loud, but sometimes hopes and dreams bring suffering instead of happiness. Luckily, I don't mind my vision. People who know what drives them to create deserve our respect. Wouldn't you agree? The uninitiated often assume that the expertise of Ksharawar architects starts with clay and ends with lumber. It's such an ignorant perspective that it's not even worth arguing against. If all it took to build a house was to smoosh a few random materials together, there'd be no need for this discipline in the first place. As well as being one of the building blocks of human culture and civilization, architecture is also an art form. Art does not exist in a vacuum, so I've always been mindful of the experiential factor for the occupants, and the emotional character conveyed to those looking on from the outside. Oh, and I'm always looking for better ways to integrate artistic expression and practical functionality. Lesser Lord Kusanali is a wise and capable god. Not only is she extremely knowledgeable, she also possesses virtue far beyond mortal comprehension. I have only the utmost respect for her tolerance of others, especially in a nation of learning like Sumeru. That takes great equanimity. Sometimes, though, I do stop to wonder, surely even the gods must have their struggles too. Oftentimes, confusion is the beginning of wisdom, in which case, how can we ever achieve true happiness? I guarantee you'll never meet anyone else who's as infuriating as him. And for the record, yes, I would say that to his face. Sure, he's smart, and sure, geniuses often come with a bad temper. But that's only half the story with him. He knows perfectly well how to appear friendly and likable to others, he just doesn't want to. If he ever gives you the impression that he doesn't really have a temper, or that he's rigidly logical like a machine, then you just don't know him well enough yet. He definitely has a personality. It's just too big a personality. Most people wouldn't get it. Alhaitham helped me out a fair amount recently. If we were still as close as we were during our student days, then I'd be thanking him every chance I got. Now, though, I can't seem to get a word of appreciation out of my mouth. Even if I could, I wouldn't want to give him the satisfaction. I guess you could say our relationship is something of a mixed bag these days. Honestly, with everything that's happened, it almost feels like the universe has been playing pranks on us. It's hard to make sense of it all. Too much to process for one lifetime. I will say that it's not every day that you get to know someone like him. I just wish he could rein in some of the worst excesses of his personality. Okay, yeah, that's never gonna happen. Ah, Tighnari. He's one of the nicest guys you could know. If you've met him, you'll know what I mean. He's kind, and he has enormous expertise in his field, but he never brags about it in front of other people. And he seems to genuinely care about his work. Back when I was building the Palace of Alcazarzare, I asked him for some tips on how to pick out the right ornamental plants. After he wrote back to me, he also helped me out with some other issues, too. Oh, and I almost forgot. He was the one who first introduced me to Cyno. Dory is the owner of the Palace of Alcazarzare. Excuse me? Mine? Oh, no, don't be ridiculous. I know full well that it doesn't belong to me. I know, but... Oh, please, let's not go there. Dory is a shrewd one. She knows how to coerce others into doing things for her. For various reasons, I now owe her a large sum of money. It all got quite complicated in the end, but... Anyway, I wish she'd show me a little mercy and stop making my life a misery for the sake of Mora. I swear, she doesn't seem like a bad person at heart, so... I just don't understand. How did she turn out like this? Cyno can come across as cold and ruthless, but he's actually a very big-hearted guy. I still remember how shocked I was when Tighnari said he was going to introduce me to his best friend, and then a couple of seconds later, an incredibly intimidating Matra comes walking through the door. I honestly never expected to meet a Matra who's so comfortable hanging out with scholars. Gotta say, though, I can't stand his sense of humor. It really makes my skin crawl. If he ever invites you to a meal at Tighnari's place, make sure someone's bringing beer, because no one should have to endure Cyno's humor while sober. I've met Collei quite a few times now. As Tighnari's student and assistant, she follows him everywhere. With her diligence and patience, she's much more responsible than most other kids her age. But, I can also tell that she's got a lot going on inside. Nilou's talent as a dancer is indisputable. Zubair Theater really lucked out when they recruited her. I've heard that she has a great personality, too. She always smiles and says encouraging things to her audience when she's performing. Once I can find some time, I'll have to catch one of her shows. Madame Faruzan doesn't mince her words, so I can understand why some students at the academia are afraid of her. She doesn't have any bad intentions, though. All she wants is to devote herself completely to the research that interests her. Some people say that all Haravatat scholars are hard to get along with, and, I'll let you be the judge of that. I assume she's already asked you to be her student? She sure is a little intense when she's doing the hard sell, huh? But she can walk the walk, too. She really does know her stuff. You heard that I've earned myself a little fame in Sumeru? Don't believe everything you hear. They're exaggerating, trust me. It's easy enough to make a name for yourself in Sumeru if you stick around here long enough. Honestly, I think managing to keep a low profile would be more of an achievement. I hope you didn't hear about me because of my bankruptcy scandal, though. If you're actually willing to hear me out, I could tell you about some of my more redeeming qualities. You're not thinking about enrolling in the academia, are you? Well, if you do sign up, from a pragmatic standpoint, I'd have to advise you to steer well clear of design. Don't get me wrong, it's a fascinating subject to study, but the work is brutal. I spent some time working under one of my seniors after I first graduated, and they worked me to the bone every day. I was constantly being ordered around like a pack animal. I really don't know how I survived for as long as I did. While everyone's aesthetic preferences differ to a point, beauty is, on the whole, a pretty concrete concept. I do think it's possible to establish some basic objective aesthetic standards. It's possible to improve your aesthetic appreciation, too, although it takes a lot of time to get the experience. If you ever need any advice on that front, by the way, you're always welcome to come to me. Some people think I like to stir up trouble, but they don't know what they're talking about. Anyone trying to make any sort of progress in life is inevitably going to come into conflict with other people from time to time. You can't just ignore the situation because you don't want to deal with it. I like to have a drink or two when I've got the time. It's a good way to de-stress. Oh, yeah, I mean, mostly just to pass the time. What's that look for? All right, I admit it. Maybe I do drown my sorrows a little more often than I was letting on. It all gets a bit too much sometimes, what with the unfinished projects, obstacles that I can't overcome, misunderstandings with other people. Don't you struggle with those kinds of things as well? Music, architecture, sculpting, painting, all are worth taking the time to appreciate properly. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in all of them, but as long as I stay interested, maybe I can master them all one day. I mean, look, I already know how to play an instrument. My troubles? The most obvious one would be my financial situation. It's not that I can't make more, it's just I can't seem to hold on to it. So many things in life require money, and if you're not careful, it just disappears. Don't worry about me, though. I'm a lot better than I used to be. I'll be more careful to live within my means in the future. My favorites are alcohol, warm soup, and anything with cream or cheese in it. Oh, and I'll never say no to fresh fruit. I can't deal with anything that's too hot or spicy. If I have to eat them, I leave them to cool first, so I at least don't burn my tongue. This is marvelous! Can you teach me how to make it? I bet this would go great with a glass of wine. Is it your birthday today? Well, congratulations! Birthdays are important days, and it's also one of those days in the year that gets you thinking about your family. However you spend today, I hope it makes you happy. This'll do nicely. Thank you. Got any more where that came from? My horizons have been broadened. I hope I can hold on to this feeling. The more power I wield, the more things I can accomplish. Even if achieving my goals comes at a cost, and even if all my hopes and dreams are built on pain and suffering, I don't want to turn back now.